Hi everyone, and I'm Gunther. I just wanted to do a real quick intro to this video. Uh, I am going to try to do some predator hunting this year. Um, Actually, predator hunting can be done year-round, even in the summer. Um, it's just a fun thing, and I want to be able to get some other people out with me that possibly are a little older, a little handicapped, and we do some predator calling and see if we can get some predators coming into us and do us a good job and have some fun. That's the biggest thing is to have some fun. So the next thing is the video of helping to clean up a little bit the Ruger. There's really no gunsmithing to it. It's just kind of cleanup. So I want everybody to understand that we're not going to be going in and plowing off metal and changing everything up and making your firearm maybe a little dangerous. It's just going to be kind of smoothing a couple parts out and what to look for. So let's get on with it. Here we go. Okay, let's get started on this. Not going to bother you with disassembly. We've already gone through that. So what I think I'm going to do first is to tell you what you're going to need to do what we're going to do today. You're going to need some 600 grit wet dry sandpaper. Now this stuff is automotive. It's 3M. To me, it's the best. It lasts a long time. And one pack of this will do many guns. So 600 grit. I wouldn't go any coarser than that. And if you wanted to go 1,000 grit, you can do that too. But 600 grit is fine. Now, the thing you got to look for, first off on the hammer, I don't know if you can see it, but there's still a little bit of a swirl. Now if you have scratches that go with the same arc, let me get my pen back here, with the same arc as this, back of your hammer, on either side, or both sides actually, then you know that you have rough spots inside the frame. And a lot of times it'll only be on one side of the hammer because the hammer has slid over a little bit. There's a little, there's slop inside your frame. So what you got to do is you got to go in and you got to feel if there's any sharp edges that you can actually feel. But the proof of the pudding is in your hammer, and you can see the marks. So what I did is I requisitioned one of my wife's emery boards for her fingernails, a small piece of emery cloth, wet dry sandpaper, not emery cloth, and then at an angle I would go against those little corners, and it doesn't take much. Just get it in there and just work it a little bit, and then feel it, and then eventually you can tell that, golly, that is really it's done well. And once you get all them little scratches off of there, or machine marks, or whatever they are, your hammer will actually open and close a little bit easier. Sometimes you might not be able to tell, but actually it does work. Nothing else on the frame that you can really do to help anything, unless you were going to go and have it completely taken down by a gunsmith, reblued, you know, and put a matchless finish on it or something. But other than going inside here, getting everything nice and smooth inside, that's about it. That's all you can do. And now, when you get that all done, you need to clean this, because you're going to have little bitty pieces of real, almost microscopic pieces of metal, and the grit off of the wet dry will work its way off, and that is so fine. So make sure you get this all cleaned off, cleaned in here. Use a brush, whatever you need, air hose. When you're all done, make sure it's all nice and clean and dry. Then we'll set that off to the side. On the hammer part, where the scratches are, basically, unless they're really deep, and if they're really deep, it's hard to really get them off. But if they're just kind of superficial, you know, and you can just see the swishes and the little scratches, what I do is I take the bigger piece of wet dry, fumble fingers here, and what I have, and I forgot to bring it in, but what I have is a whetstone that I use for sharpening my hunting knives, and actually I use them to hunt or sharpen some of the broadheads with. But it's really flat, and I'll lay this on top of that, and then I'll take my hammer very lightly, go over it, and look at it, see if it's getting nice and polished. Do both sides, and when you get that to where you think it's pretty good, then take a little bit of gun oil, drop it on your wet dry paper, and then go over it one more time. Now don't push down hard, because you're not going to need it. You're just buffing it. You're just trying to polish it. And do it both sides. Make sure you get both sides. And that will help take the scratches out, and basically it's just a thing to make it actually look better too. Now, once that's done, you don't need to clean your hammer yet, because you got something else you're going to do to it. This is your strut, your hammer strut. And I said in my last video, don't get that top part all marred up by taking your trigger guard out by prying with this. That's basically not what this thing was for. You know, proper tool for the proper job type of thing. And what I do is I take a small piece, or you can use the same one you just got done with, I guess. That would probably be easiest. And then I just I go in a half moon motion, and then I look at it. Like I said, don't push down and try to really grind that stuff off. All you're doing is just pushing or polishing it up. You just want to give it a nice shine. And when you do that, you know, don't take a lot off. If there's some scuff marks on it, just make sure that they're smooth. Don't try to plow them out of there. Excuse me. And when you're done doing that, then you need on the side where the sharp edges would be to take and do the circular thing on both sides and get that so there's no sharp edges on that either. And then take your finger, roll over it, make sure that there's nothing there that's going to dig into the metal or your finger. When you're done with that, now you're going to go back to your hammer. Now where your hammer strut fits into your hammer here, and you cock it, goes back and forth. That's why you don't want this marred up. And on the inside of here it's usually about the same as what it is on the outside here that you can see. It's not polished really nice. So what I do is, this is a piece of plastic. It's kind of hard, but it's a piece of plastic. And I make sure it fits in the hole. And then well, you want it smaller than the hole. Let's get that, because when you get your paper wound on it, it's going to go inside to where your strut fits, and you want to put it in through the hole. This side here has a little wall on it to keep your strut from falling out. It's got a bevel on it to keep it in that one spot. But go in and lightly back and forth, just very lightly, back and forth and back and forth. A little bit of pressure down, not a lot. Back and forth and back and forth. Make sure you don't touch this hole, your hammer pin hole. We gave a class once, and one of the guys was sitting here doing it in his hammer pin hole. Not a good idea. That's already okay. So, and then you can look down, use a magnifying glass if you have to. Actually, what I had an old scope that broke, and this is the end of it, and I took that off, and it makes a fabulous magnifying glass. But any magnifying glass, look in there and make sure that you're getting that off, and and you're not really, plowing metal off in there. Please do not use a rat tail file or a pillar file in those. It just no, you just ruined your hammer then. The only thing you can use is wet dry sandpaper. Get that all done. Make sure everything it looks nice. You can look at it, and you can be proud of what you do if it's nice and shiny. Then take both pieces, clean them. Make sure, get your brush, get inside the pin, make sure this is all clean. Make sure your spring is all clean from sandpaper or any type of fine metal that has come off your strut. Blow it dry if you have a air compressor. Turn your pressure down. You don't want to do 150 pounds of air and go, and now that thing goes zinging away, and you have to find it somewhere. I've done that before, so that's why I'm saying it. I've done a lot of things before, like this spring here that was compressed, and I don't know, I was taking it apart to smooth out the sides of it and smooth the inside of the spring, and I have a little fixture that I put in my vise. I pushed it down, and it slipped off, and this thing went zoom, and it took me, I'll bet you, 3 days to finally find the thing, but I found it. A lot of times I don't find the things that I do that to. But anyway, onward and upward. Make sure everything is nice and clean, dry. Now, the next thing you want to do is you want to oil these spots. Now, most of this is Rem oil from Remington. Most of them have a nice big gaping hole in the end. Oh, come on. You're supposed to open up this way. There you go. Huge hole. If you're going to dab oil on a barrel or something and take a rag and spread it all over everything and then wipe it pretty much down, that's what it's great for. For getting into small things like in here, or your pin, hammer pin, or your strut, any of that, it just doesn't work. So what I do, I take that off, and I also do leather. So I have leather needles, and they're a little bit bigger on the end. And what I do is I will take and I will put it in there. And I know you can't see it, but there is a drop of oil on the end of that. And I will take, and if, like where it is in this hammer strut, and I will put that little drop there in the hammer, where the hammer strut goes. Same way with where the hammer pin goes. Make sure you get it in there. This here, you need a drop of oil because it has a pin in it. So I put a drop of oil, work it a little bit, get it down in there. And the same way on any of your mechanism in your trigger guard, your trigger assembly. It is such an important thing that that you don't get it packed with oil, but that you do have oil on it. So I do the same thing, tape in, and I go in and I drop it where there's, and you can see, you can tell that you've got oil in there. And I do that everywhere there's a pin or there's something that is moving. And you can see whenever you do that, that it drops oil right where your pin is, or your needle is, I should say. Make sure everything works good, everything is loose and free and clean. See, and it just sucks it right down. I don't know if you could see that, but it sucked it right down in there, which is awesome. And everything works really good. So once you get everything oiled, a drop of oil here and a drop of oil there, and you do the same thing for your cylinder, where your cylinder rotates, drop of oil, crane, drop of oil, any place that moves, a drop of oil. Main thing when you oil your rifle, shotgun, pistol, revolver, anything like that, you do not want a whole bunch of oil in it, because especially like on your trigger mechanisms, once you start firing this thing, target practicing, out in the woods, walking around, especially if you're in drier areas, the deserts and stuff, which I love, and you've got this thing just full of oil, that's just like a magnet to dust and dirt. It just sucks right on it, and every time it just, it's like throwing a handful of sandpaper in there. And that's what it does. And that's a bad way of wearing or a good way of wearing everything out. So make sure everything's clean, and you don't need oil on the outside of these things that, you know, if there's nothing moving. But on the pins, you know, like your pin here, you still need oil on that too. So, you know, where the things are on your pistols and revolvers, rifles and shotguns. But this, when you clean your gun, no matter what it is, and if it looks complicated before you take it apart, pretty neat little cell phones here have these nice cameras on them. Take a picture of it, maybe 2 or 3 different angles of it before you take it apart. Then you've got a beautiful record for looking at your pictures and go, that's how that goes. So I did that for a long time when I first started out, and when I get to a firearm that I haven't taken apart a lot, I will still take pictures of it, just because to be on the safe side. So anyway, I'm sitting here babbling, going on. Thank you guys for watching. I really love doing these videos. I just I'm hoping that I'm going to get better at them. I know they're a little rough right now. I've never done this type of a video before where I've had things apart laying and taking a video of it. I'm used to the classroom type of thing where either the students are around me or in front of me, and I'm holding things up and walking around with it or whatever. So this is new to me. But anyway, I hope I'm doing okay for you guys. Like I said, I'm going to really work hard at making it better. So thank you all again for watching. We pray for everybody every single day. We love you all. Thank you. Bye-bye.